Hey guys, what's going on? It's Jay, and today what I have for you is the new G Master lens from Sony, and it is a banger for sure. Known as the Chodester Killer, because to be fair, Canon did come out with this lens first, but when Sony makes G Master lenses, they tend to go above and beyond in every single characteristic. It's an incredible optic, and Canon has had it since I think 2018 or something like that. So Sony decided to make one to compete, and it's far superior in pretty much every single way, as we're going to go over in this video. So just for a quick comparison, I just want to compare a couple of specs with the Canon 28-70 f2, just in case you guys are on the fence as to whether to go for a Sony or a Canon system, you know, like if you're a wedding photographer or something like that. A lot of people I know that use Canon use the Canon 28-70 for weddings and stuff like that. So now that Sony offers this, it kind of eliminates the need for a lot of prime lenses, and you can get away with, you know, shooting a wedding with just this one lens in a lot of situations. Now, I would still have a 70-200 in my bag and a couple other lenses just in case, but as far as walking around the wedding, you know, especially the reception and stuff like that, you can get away with just using this one lens, which is amazing, as opposed to having multiple camera bodies hanging, you know what I'm saying, with prime lenses. So the Sony is 36% lighter weight, so we're talking 918 grams versus 1,430 grams. In addition, the Sony is 11% smaller, like diameter-wise, and it's got an 85mm filter thread on the front here, as opposed to the Canon, which has a 95mm filter thread. The Sony also has significantly better sharpness, especially in the corner area, at all zoom ranges. The Sony also has leaps and bounds better autofocus technology. It has 4 linear XD motors, which is the latest and greatest technology. So this can keep up with 120 frames per second, high action sports photography if needed. It can also keep up recording 240 frames per second video. And while zooming, it can keep up. So that's what the technology gets you. The Canon, for example, has a really awesome SSM autofocus motor, which is just older technology. It's great for photos, but it makes noise and it's not very smooth and stuff like that for video. In addition, the Sony lens has very little focus breathing compared to the Canon, which has a lot of focus breathing. If you do a test like that, it's very noticeable. So another thing to keep in mind, more particular for video though. Alright guys, I just want to take a moment to thank the sponsor of this video, which is you. You guys are the sponsor of this video. That's right. You guys are the ones that are watching the video. You guys are the ones asking questions and commenting below, helping other people in the comment section, which is super grateful and appreciated, and I love answering your questions as well. But you guys are also the ones going into that description area, clicking the affiliate links, which greatly helps me out, and I really appreciate it. So thanks again, guys, for watching this video. Be sure to hit that subscribe button and give me a thumbs up as well. And thank you for sponsoring this video. So just taking a closer look at this lens here, you can see this really nice lens hood. It's got the lock on here, which I really like. I like having that lock. So if you need to adjust your filter, you can just open this and then you can turn your filter. I wish all the lens hoods had that, but they seem to keep it to the more premium lenses. In addition, check out this feature. It has the smooth and tight option for the zoom. And you can see here, the zoom throw is pretty short. It doesn't really come out that much. So 28 all the way to 70. And then if you put it on tight mode, it's going to be a lot harder to turn. Next, we have the on and off click here for the aperture. So you can turn the click on and off, and you can see the manual aperture ring here. Right here, I have the click off right now. F22, F16, F11, F8, F5.6, F4, all the way to F2. And even with the click off, it does have a hard, like, resistance there to get to auto, so it's not going to pop off auto. But you don't even have to worry about that because it also has the iris lock here. So you can just lock that and then the aperture ring is locked. In addition, we have the autofocus manual switch, which you would expect, and it's got the 2 custom programmable buttons that by default will work as focus hold. Now, the zoom does have a little bit of resistance. You could hear it there. And the focus ring feels like butter. The focus ring has a linear manual focus feedback, which is really nice and very good for when using in manual focus as opposed to the electronic style. Like the linear is so much easier to use. It's much more predictable. And so they included that as well. This lens also has the weather sealing that you would expect, weather resistance and stuff like that. So it's got the rubber gasket on the back here, which is really nice. And overall, it feels really good in the hands. It's a lot lighter than you would expect it to be. To be honest, this lens is so big and so lightweight, it almost feels like a little bit cheaper in that way because it seems like it should feel a lot heavier. So it's not a cheaper lens, don't get me wrong. It actually goes for like $2,800 US. Definitely not a cheap lens. It's a very expensive lens, but just because of the lightweight, like it just almost feels like it's cheaper. It's just the thought I had. It has 20 glass elements in here in 10 groups, and it has a lot of those super advanced elements that Sony is creating. They're inventing new glass elements to make the lenses smaller and lighter weight with like almost flawless performance. So again, corner to corner, razor sharp, and you know, the flaring control is really good. It's got an 11 blade aperture diaphragm in there, so that's going to help get those really nice, smooth, round bokeh ball renderings. In addition to that, it has 3XA lens elements in there, which are extreme spherical elements, and that helps with a beautiful bokeh rendering. You might notice with zoom lenses, sometimes you get that onion ringing effect. You don't get that with this lens. They like canceled it out. It just looks gorgeous, even though there's 20 lens elements in there, which is absolutely incredible. One other feature I wanted to mention is the minimum focus distance. So we're looking at 0.38 meters or 1.25 feet, which is pretty darn good. That'll yield you about 2.3x magnification. And it's that for the entire zoom range. So you can get that minimum focus distance at 70 millimeter and 28 millimeter. It just stays the same. So here's how I was using it on my Sony a7C II for pretty much a walk around lens, everyday lens. I just carried this with me for like the last week. And by the way, Sony did send me this lens early to do a review. They didn't give me money or anything like that. They just gave me access to the lens early. So full disclosure there. No influence on anything I say, just so you guys know. And you can see holding it with the A7C II here, I can just hold it with one hand, no real issue at all. You know, it's not like gonna break my wrist or anything, but obviously it does feel better when you put your hand under it like so. All right guys, now it's time for those pixel peepers out there. I'm gonna go through all the sample photos I took. Now these are real world sample photos, as I said earlier in this video. I don't shoot weddings anymore, so what I used this lens for was pretty much a walk around lens in all sorts of scenarios. So let's just get right into it, guys. Like I said, I had it for about 2 weeks, and I got food, all sorts of cool stuff here. So it's that time of year. Halloween already passed, but here's just what I took of this cool little plastic skeleton here hanging on the tree in the front yard. But just look at that background rendering, nice and dreamy. It's got really good 3D pop and a very nice look to it, for lack of a better word. It also has excellent contrast. So again, here's another example. This is over in Walden, New York here. And if I just zoom in on the sign, you can just see the insane detail. Now, keep in mind, guys, up here on the top left is the EXIF data. So if you're wondering what aperture and shutter speed and focal length I'm at, that'll all be up here on the top left. In case I don't say it, I usually say it as I'm going, but if I don't and you're curious, it's up there on the left. Now, here's another one, 70 millimeter at f2. So you can see now the background separation is really good in this frame compared to this frame. This one's at 28, so there's 28 at 5.6 versus 70 at f2. Now here's just another one. Here's 70 millimeters of this water tower. Just wanted to show you the absolute insane clarity, sharpness, detail, and so forth. And here's one at 28, so you can see the difference. So that is the reach, 28 to 70. And here's just one of a sunflower. Here's some water here in the town of Wallkill. And these are just snapshots. The dynamic range was very high, so they don't really look that great, to be honest with you, because the lighting was so harsh. Now here's one of the a sandwich I got. This is an Italian combo, one of the best places around. And just look at this detail. I mean, this lens is just killer for point and shooting and stuff like that in scenarios like this. You go out to a restaurant or whatever. I just love the way that this renders. Really good 3D pop. Here's a nice reflection shot. Here's a nice farm, Farview Farms it's called, Fairview Farms, over in like Goshen, New York area. Now here's just one of a brick wall. Just wanted to show you how this renders. So these are raw files, so there is some distortion for sure. You can see, you know, if I pull this around, you can see there's just a little bit, somewhere right around there is a little bit better. So there will be a lens profile for this eventually. If you're shooting JPEG, the camera will automatically correct it. And of course, if I use the Sony Imaging Edge software, I can correct these raw files, but I didn't feel like doing that. The distortion was not that bad, I thought, so you could just play with the, you know, the manual distortion control in Lightroom to fix it if you want, for the most part. Now, here's just a couple shots of Buddy looking down, and again, just f2, you can see the background separation. This is just the ground. He's just sitting there. And guys, just look at the insane sharpness, clarity, color, and so forth. Now here's just one where he's coming towards me, and I just was rapid firing, and you could see every shot is sharp. I'll zoom in here. These are cropped in just a little bit. Every shot is sharp, right on the eye. I was using the Sony a7C II for this with Animal Eye AF enabled. So now here he was running towards me at full speed. Just wanted to show you how capable this lens is in that regard. So full speed, no problem for an extremely fast puppy running at me. Here's another one. These are verticals. Now he wasn't running quite as fast for these shots, but same thing. Every one of them is sharp, and the detail is awesome. Here's some fall foliage, and I just love the way that the background renders. You can see like those just bokeh balls are just incredible. Here's one more with the lit up leaf. Now here's just one looking down at the deck, and you can just see the 3D pop. These are my brother's boots, and it just like pops out of the screen, you know, like it just, the way it renders with that background blur. This is actually at f4 70 millimeters, so I wasn't even at f2, and the 3D pop is pretty awesome. Now here's just one of my brother on the deck, and the lighting was really horrible for this shot, so this is the unenhanced raw file, just so you can see how much dynamic range, by the way, the Sony a7C II has. So I was able to recover that very easily with Lightroom. Now here's just one. I just wanted to show you how the sun is rendering here in the early morning, and the bokeh ball rendering is just awesome, and the black background separation at f2. So now look at f22 just as a difference. So now you can see the sun flares, and you can see a lot more detail in the background here. So again, f2 versus f22. You can see f2 is like, what's going on? You have no idea. It almost looks like a castle or something in the background. And then f22, you can see here. Here's just a snapshot. Here's a little bit shooting into the sun. I just wanted to show you a little bit of flaring here. You can see there's a little bit of green flaring there. Here's some more on this shot. You can see a little bit of flaring shooting into the sun. So you can get that if you want. It's pretty well controlled though overall. It's kind of hard to get it to flare, to be honest. Now here's one down at this place called the Dale, and I just took a couple of snapshots. I love the way it looks looking down a bar with all the lights in the background and stuff. It really separates the subject, and it's great for sample photos, I thought. So this is definitely a special lens. I really like the way it renders. Over the years, you might have heard of people complaining that the Sony lenses are just clinical, like they're phenomenal optically, but they don't really have any of that cool character or like a cool look to it. Well, these newer GM lenses absolutely do. Sony's really getting into adding character and also being optically flawless. So that's impressive stuff if you ask me, and you can see the results here. The bokeh ball rendering is just phenomenal. The way it looks, even on LED lights that are very small light sources, the bokeh balls render very, very well. I'm just impressed overall. You can see again here how it handles it. Here's just another leaf outside. And again, if you zoom in, you can just see, especially when the leaf is backlit like this, how good it looks. But the bokeh rendering is phenomenal. Foreground and background there really gets that layering 3D pop going. All right, so here's a couple more snapshots, a little library thing. Here's a few more. It's looking at some bottles and stuff. A couple of more here. Some super low light pizza shots. Came out okay, but the lighting was so terrible in here. Really not that happy with these photos. Kind of need a secondary light source in this type of environment. This shot actually came out pretty good, but again, the lighting was so horrible. Here's my buddy Charlie, my brother's bulldog. Great dog. Really helping a lot to train my new puppy, Buddy. Now, here's just a shot of a dandelion, I believe these are called. Yeah. But anyway, you can just see that detail there. It's at 48 millimeter. And here's one at 70 millimeter. And again, just incredible sharpness, clarity, depth of field play, and so forth. Here's one of Buddy. So here's some night shots, extremely low light, high ISO. So this is ISO 12,800. And you can see if I zoom in, you can actually see some of the stars up there in the sky, which is incredible. You know, just for hand holding, this is 1/6 of a second hand holding. And again, very, very sharp, really good rendering overall. You can see some of the star flaring here from the lights. I got a couple more shots too. It's just one of the back of my car. I thought the taillight looked cool. I actually like this shot. It's just a reflection, but thought it was pretty cool. And you can see the flaring again from this light source. This is at f4. 1/10 of a second. Here's just a vertical shot. This is at f2, ISO 4000. So this is going to be a little bit cleaner of an image because it's only ISO 4000. And you can see, looks really good. And one more. And this one I stopped down to f18 to try to get some of that star flaring. And it's just very, very low light, 1/8 of a second. So it's a little bit underexposed. Now here's just another flaring shot. I was purposely trying to get the lens to flare. So here's what we got. This is the most exaggerated flare I could get out of this lens. And this is at 70 millimeter, f22, no less. Now here's just one inside this restaurant. I was hanging out with my buddy Mark in Saugerties. And I just liked the way that that shot looked. They had this hanging on the wall. Looked pretty cool. Here's just another one of a beer. We were sitting right next to the window. So looking out the window, got some killer wings. This place had some smoked wings. They were awesome. Also had a killer burger. It was very, very delicious here. There's another shot. And again, just look at that background rendering of the street scene behind the glass. It just looks so incredible. Really like the way that that looks. Here's just more of a close-up. So this is at more of the minimum focus distance here. 28 millimeter, so I was going for very close to the subject, wide angle view to get that beer and some of that street scene in the background there. I just love the way that this looks. If I really wanted to isolate the burger, I would have zoomed into 70 millimeter and I would have backed up a little bit, and then the telephoto compression would have really just blurred out the background completely. But in this case, I actually wanted you to know and see some of the street scene in the background. So that's why I went for the wider view for this shot. Now, here's just an image of a colorful building across the street. I thought it looked pretty cool. They had this pretty cool mural as well. Saugerties. Very nice little town here. Now, here's one at f2, 70 millimeter, and you can just see the detail, you know, sharpness, clarity, color. I mean, it's just phenomenal. Really, really high quality lens. No doubt about it, as you would expect for the kind of money that you're going to pay for something like this. Here's just a couple more snapshots. I like the way that this bar rendered here, the way those lights look. Here's a few landscapes. I just took a couple of them down the road at the Basher Kill. Love this place. Again, just a couple of snapshots. So I love playing with depth of field when it comes to a lens like this. So this is like a depth of field play sort of landscape shot, which I just find fun sometimes. Here's a couple more. It's always fun to see how it's going to render. Here I went for the foreground out of focus and, you know, background in more detail here. So here's a 40 millimeter, here's a 70 millimeter. So pretty much the same shot, just different focal lengths. And then turning to the right, we got another angle here, which I kind of like. Now, for those super duper pixel peepers here, I have a couple of lab shots. So this is at 70 millimeter f2. And you can see the corner sharpness is absolutely incredible. And if I go to the right here, this is going to be 50 millimeter f2. And again, just look at the corner sharpness, incredible. I'll show you the full scene. Corner sharpness is remarkable though on this lens. Here's another one. This is at 36 millimeter. Again, see the pipe cleaners all the way in the corner. Incredibly razor blade sharp at f2. And here's one more at 28. And again, extremely sharp in the corners at f2. 28 to 70 right here. You can see the quarters right there. Like so. Minimum focus distance testing. I just wanted to show you this really quick so you can see the aperture run. So this is f2, f2.8, f4, f5.6, f8, f11. All right, guys, so at the end of the day, like I said in the beginning of this video, this new lens is a banger for sure. Now, it's obviously very expensive, no doubt about it, but for a lens like this, it's kind of just the way it is. Canon's lens is the same price, so we'll see what the final price is, but as of the time of this recording, the price is $27.99 US. That may change, though, so keep that in mind. I had a blast using this lens. It's extremely fun having a super fast aperture zoom lens. I'm used to using f2.8s, and as fun as they are, they're not quite fast enough for me for the background blur that I like in photos, so I tend to use faster prime lenses for almost all occasions if possible, but the convenience of having a zoom lens for event photography is just tremendous. So again, weddings, event photography, if you're somebody at a fair, you're a run and gun photojournalist, there's a lot of scenarios where a lens like this can be extremely useful. Just even street photography and stuff like that, this is a great option. I know because of the cost, it might not be in your budget, totally understandable. I can't really afford a lens like this either for the most part, but if I was doing event photography, I would absolutely consider picking it up. Especially if I was doing weddings, I would grab this lens in a second because carrying multiple cameras is not exactly fun for, you know, an 8-hour day. All right, guys, so that about wraps up this review. I really appreciate you watching, and if you got what you were looking for, please give me a thumbs up and be sure to hit that subscribe button as well if you want to see more videos like this in the future. Lastly, be sure to check out this video if you want to see another really awesome lens from Sony. All right, guys, I'll catch up with you next time. Take care.